Regular meeting of council to order for Monday, February 10th. We'd like to welcome everyone to council this morning in our gallery. Our first item this morning is an announcement that was to be released at 9 o'clock this morning and was released on Friday morning. And so we're whatever day, whatever time an announcement like this happens, to me is this is a very big deal for our community, our region, and WestJet announced on Friday that they're going to begin a daily service to Calgary from Dawson Creek beginning the 26th of April. I think the schedule was going live this morning and they were to announce it this morning, and a little bit of a mix-up at WestJet in terms of the announcement got released on Friday, and we are over the moon excited about being able to see WestJet come into our community for so many reasons. So anyway, it was a real exciting day on Friday to see that happen.
All right.
Our first order of business this morning is our delegations, and our first delegation this morning we have our Peace Country Roots group in attendance this morning for our Heritage Week proclamation, and we have Sue Johnson and Janice Hansen, and I see Cliff and Martha Washington are here. I'm assuming are you joining us, or are you just going to be the picture takers? Good morning, you guys. Welcome. Good to have you at City Council. Good morning. Good morning. Good morning. Good morning, Jean. Welcome. Good to have you here this morning. Thanks for coming. Whereas Heritage Week is celebrated in communities throughout BC every year, commencing on National Heritage Day, the third Monday in February. And whereas in recognition of heritage houses and neighborhoods, the theme for this year's Heritage Week celebration is bringing the past into the future. And whereas neighborhoods and districts from earlier eras promote a layered sense of community history and contribute to visual appeal and variety, which enhances community attractiveness and livability. And whereas communities throughout BC mark Heritage Week to celebrate their unique history and heritage. And now, therefore, I do hereby proclaim the week of February 17th to 23rd, 2020 as Heritage Week in Dawson Creek.
All right.
Wonderful.
Thanks so much. Congratulations.
Oh,
thank you so much. Thank you.
And I would just like to add, if I could, that our Peace Country Roots group will be at the Dawson Mall on Saturday, February 22, from 11 a.m. until 3 p.m. And we'll be having our little displays, you know, of like what we do. We have a really lovely big high cards, and they've got lots of different stories. So we have some people that do wonderful, wonderful genealogy work, and I just thought I'd bring along this other, if I may, too, please. Just so you guys could have a look at it. Which I think is that's put out by the province of BC, which is a pretty wonderful, nice display. But our own group will be at the mall on Saturday, the 22nd of February. So invite everybody to come down, and if anybody's interested in genealogy, just give us the order.
Great job. Well, thank you so much. We love the work that you guys have done, obviously, in terms of preserving the past and preserving the history of the community and the region, and it's so cool to see that. So thank you, obviously, for the volunteer work that you guys put into it on behalf of all of our community and the region. Mm-hmm. Thanks for being here this morning.
Thank you very
much.
much.
Good to see you.
All right.
Thank you.
Right. Thank you. How are you doing?
Fine.
Our next delegation this morning is the Peace River District Women's Institute in regards to our BC Women's Institute proclamation. We have Ruth Viner and Lorette Norman and Jean Norman and Linda LaFleur and the Peace River Women's Institute. So I can have you come up, ladies, and we'll... Jean, yes?
Yeah, that's just what I was saying. Yeah, she has to go.
Good job, Lorette.
And yes, you have to go.
We all caught her. Good morning, good morning, good morning, good morning, good morning, Jean. Yeah, Linda, nice to see you. Yeah, she was going to try and sneak out, right? Thanks for being here this morning. It's always a pleasure to be able to welcome you into City Council and read the proclamation. for Women's Institute Week. Whereas the British Columbia Women's Institute is a diverse group of interested, involved, and educated women from all walks of life who, by working together, expand their skills, broaden their interests, and work to improve conditions in the home, the community, and around the world through service, self-fulfillment, and sociability. And whereas they sponsor and promote programs in agriculture, citizenship, home economics, health and welfare, and cultural pursuits. And whereas they function at the local, regional, provincial, and national and international level with a range of activities broad enough to encompass the interests of women, now therefore I do hereby proclaim the week of February 10th to 16th, 2020 as BC Women's Institute Week in Dawson Creek.
All right.
Congratulations. Thank you.
Thank
And
you
the floor is yours.
Thank you for continuing to support WI. We've been here, we're as perennial as the grass. We've been here a long time, we've had to be for a while, working in our community, so thank you.
Great job. Thank you so much for being in here. And again, thanks so much for the work you do. And it's such a cool, I think, initiative and way for us to continue to work together to build community. And you guys do a great job of that. Thank you
for working with us.
Thank you.
Well, thank you. That wasn't hard, was it?
Our next delegation this morning is Dustin Bednarik and General Manager of Spectre Venue, and Barry Rayner from Tourism Dawson Creek to give an update on the Tourism Dawson Creek.
Dustin Bednarik.
Oh, and Mr. Powell.
Please come to the front.
Bringing out the big guns.
Charlie, okay. He'll get it figured out in a minute.
So thank you, Your Worship and Council. Always a pleasure to come back into the council meetings. And Mr. Powell promised that, well, he didn't promise, he said that I had to speak fast because he has a doctor's appointment at 10. And there's a rumor that actually Ross even talks longer than me, so I'm very excited to come back and give you a recap on some of the strategies around the World Junior A Challenge and what we're doing on the tourism side. First, before we get into it, I did send a message last week with some very exciting news for the community, but not great news for Barry. Lindsay has decided to move on and for a bit. She says she's not too far away. What an integral part she's played to get us where we are today, and she's moving over to the Hospital Foundation. Hospital.
College.
She really helped the foundation. That's where she's going. We're so torn we can't even speak. But thank you to Lindsay for the great job she did. She's really made the three of us look pretty good so far. So this is a little bit about the update of where our event tourism strategy, which was in 2018, the combination of tourism marketing and the tourism hosting that's led into some great tourism events that we've had. A very unique, so Sabrina, you just said push that, or?
The arrow?
The arrow, yeah. Did I point it towards Charlie's computer? So as we get that, see if that pops up, four events that we've uniquely created with Dawson Creek, the city, and event tourism. Aside from Spectra, the 4-year agreement, the event agreement with Hockey Canada is the most unique opportunity so far in Hockey Canada's history, and I can tell you that that's working out very well for us. There will be an announcement very shortly as well on what our next event is at the end of this. So an event within an event is what we've been looking at. We work with our neighboring communities, so we're going to talk a little bit about pre-camp, we're going to talk a little bit about development and the exhibition games leading into.
Just shooting forward, I think.
So back there, Sabrina?
Working. She's
Oh,
working.
there we go.
So we just want to go off that, and I just ask you to politely go to the next one. Sabrina, or is it going to work? Okay. So the two communities, so when we looked at this pre-camp, this was quite exciting. The whole goal is that we can't do this alone. It's very important that we work within our neighboring communities, and when we saw the opportunity for a pre-camp, we've been talking a lot with Tumbler Ridge, And that just seemed to be a spot where the Russians could get away. We had a pre-event that we couldn't take them into the city. A lot of bookings around our municipality arena as well. So Tumbler Ridge became the host of the Russians, and there's so many stories that came out here. We were very excited. I know that the mayor's reached out as well to council to tell them about that. The excitement of team building, bringing them into their community, and the community engagement was very special. We were very surprised at that interaction between the Russians and the community, but there was a bond there that was created very early with a boy that had some sickness that wasn't able to play the game, and the team really brought him in. For those that were around the rink, they put him into a full Russian dress suit and represented Russia very well, but certainly made the boys' life very a Christmas dream come true. Next slide, please. The development side around this as well is very critical. That was a strategic, I believe that's your grandson.
Okay.
Lindsay strategically.
There you go.
Development, the next slide as we go, please. Sabrina. The fact about growing the game, when we look at any event that we bring in and the opportunity to grow the community or grow the game is critical. So we partnered this year again with Dawson Minor Hockey Association, the ARC, and BC Hockey School Program, which we believe was probably the most critical. And all this stuff works before you actually get into the event. And it grows the game. It allows people to understand the value of the sport and all the good things and benefits that could go with it. Next slide, please. We went into the ARC the night, and there were 3 objectives. First and foremost, if people have been up that way, a great addition is their outdoor rink that they brought in, and that was some work back with Kevin Lowe and his rink out of Edmonton. Hard to believe in the middle of winter twice. We tried to get ice, and it melted that same day. Late November, that's pretty warm weather we had. But this was about how do we work in partnership through sport tourism, through the community pride work that we're doing, to help the ARC grow the game or to make it a safe, inclusive place for kids that maybe can't afford the game of hockey today. The second part of that was how do we work as a community with our groups, and these were leaders within the community. BC Hockey was there, Hockey Canada, a number of local entrepreneurs, representation from the hotelier industry and food industry, as well as a couple people that are strategically working with the ARC to make it a great place that it is. What do we do in the next 4 years? What events do we maximize that ability to make it grow? And the third one was that we worked with, there were representations from the Predator female program and our local minor hockey association about how do we actually take a look strategically of how many kids are actually playing, the kids that are leaving the game, how do we get parents involved and volunteers, so very critical. Another part that was we raised $14,000 to go into our school program. We did work up in the Peace River area and Karen Goodings and Brad Sperling's area schools. We went into Tumbler Ridge, having a partnership with West Moab and so too into the school program, and we also had 2 school programs here. This program was both the Fort St. John Huskies and our Dawson Creek Canucks helped us with that. Very good community partnerships, so working with our other teams to engage into the community. The greatest part about this was $5,000 worth of equipment was left in the schools for floorball, and that was raised through partnerships and sponsors throughout the communities. There we go. Picture this, we believe that there were over 1,000 kids engaged in the school program. All the reports back, and this is the second time now we've had large engagement within the schools. Our Western Hockey League event was very successful as well, with both Western Hockey League teams going in and doing some great work for us. All of that was done even before we did the exhibition games. And the 3 exhibition games, again, great to get us out into the region. We can't do this sometimes without our partnerships. In the first game, the exhibition game was Fort St. John Flyers. Why the Fort St. John Flyers? If you remember a key partnership we had back in our 15-17 World Under-17s. This turned out to be a great opportunity for them. Some would remember the Fort St. John Flyers did not operate this year. This became a great fundraiser for them. We took the risk. We allowed them to raise anything they did on merch, 50/50s, anything special within the arena that they did. We paid them to pay for the ice, and they put the show on, supplied all the volunteers, and we took the risk of the tickets at the door. Interesting partnership with Grand Prairie Storm. This is a working relationship with our tourism, sport tourism side, and their sport tourism people with the Grand Prairie Storm. And some people would say, well, why would we go across to the Storm? There are great partnership opportunities on both sides of the border for us, especially on the hockey side that may grow into some additional international events, and partnering with the Storm was a great place to start. It also brought some people from, they fell in love with the Czechs. They came across. There were a number of tickets that rebound back into our facility based on that as well. We're very excited about that opportunity. Dustin's going to talk a little bit about the championship side.
Thank you very much, Barry, and thanks again to the Mayor and Council for being so actively engaged in this event. Being retransplanted into Dawson Creek 7 weeks before the event, it was great to work with the host committee, Barry, Lindsay, Mr. Powell, and all the directors that have such a wealth of experience in hosting these types of events. When we look at championships, it's not just the champions on the ice, but as Barry mentioned, the community and people that put these events on. From a venue perspective, our food and beverage team put out over 6,000 meals, high caliber meals for all the athletes, coaches, and support staff over the course of that week. To support that effort, we brought in 3 additional executive chefs from some of our other venues in Canada and the U.S. to make sure that service was provided at the highest rate. Along with food and beverage, there was a few different community groups that helped support our concession workers. So whether that was dance clubs, judo, some of the school programs that are raising money for a Vancouver trip. They use this event as a fundraising opportunity. Also, in going with our sport tourism and event strategy and the food and beverage side, during that concert day, we moved our teams out into the community. So they ate at the building for the most part, but then we moved them around to the different restaurants so they could experience, food and beverage opportunities in Dawson Creek, whether that be Boston Pizza, Sola's, Ma Bakers at the airport. Our team was also very engaged in the ticketing part, developing different ticketing plans, being able to utilize the WHL series and also the WJAC as a kind of combined ticket package. Our team, in consultation with the Fort St. John crew, was able to go up and support and utilize our systems for those 2 games up in Fort St. John. And this was kind of a legacy that we learned from the U17 event that we kind of just carried over for this event as well. A few things about kind of the numbers and those championship numbers of the event, right? We had over 10,600 attendees over the course of the week through the building, 8,973 tickets sold, 233 direct hotel rooms can be escalated because of the event that we were booking to house these athletes and coaches and support staff. I have a few of these numbers right now, but more information will be coming as we also did a STEAM analysis as we do for many of these events. That information has been sent to the Canadian Tourism Sport Alliance, and they're just crunching those numbers too. So we'll make sure to report those numbers back to council when we receive those. It's great to see that these types of events also have such a reach, not just for the people in the community, but providing that brand awareness of being a sport event location. And happy to report that 222,600 people were reached through our different social media content. 11,354 people were engaged in the content that Hockey Canada posted through videos, photos, content. Over 30,000 people tuned in and watched the streaming games over the course of the week. So Hockey Canada had set up a camera at each of the games to showcase Dawson Creek and the building and the events. Also with that, TSN was on location for two of those games at the final championship events. The mayor did a great interview showcasing the event and the community, and those are kind of highlights that, we just can't pay for it. It's all that earned stuff that comes around with hosting an event. As the slide says, we did 14 games, hosted 5 teams between that period of time. A couple other things that happened during that 2-week period is we also hosted a PBR event 3 days before, bringing in Hockey Canada, and halfway through the tournament, we flipped the building again to a Johnny Reed concert. So we did 16 events in 15 days, which is remarkable for the community. We talked about the quadruple flip, and the operations crew was phenomenal. We brought in the Junior Canucks, who helped support some of that conversion group. So it really did bring the whole community together to make this happen. And again, that Johnny Reed splitting up the event is the first time ever that Hockey Canada stopped one of their major events to host a concert and then continue on. So again, another first for Dawson Creek. With that, I'm going to flip it back over to Barry to talk about partnership.
The partnership, the one slide that we wanted to build into this partnership side was a unique opportunity we did with Chetwynd and West Mobeso too, coming together to host one of the games. That excitement of us going back out into a small remote community that's never been had that official opportunity was quite exciting. I can tell you that Eleanor and their crew did a great job working with Lindsay. There was some great relationship building that we did, and Hockey Canada was very excited to go in there. Created a video that the mayor was in part of the partnership sharing with Chetwynd on that. So some great stories coming out of there as well. Our local partnerships that we've created are outstanding. The spin-offs and how you take an event and spin that through. We built off of the Fabulous Friday event where the players went into the schools and built them within the community with the partnerships that said that something like Tim Hortons that did with Boston Pizza, that worked with Swamp Donkey, all part of the growth, and the end result was checks into our community. So the partnerships are quite critical. We do have, and we believe, a unique partnership around transportation. We've worked very uniquely without that regional partnership. They gave us a great deal, put back into the community, and also provided transportation for Tumbler Ridge community to come in, as well as the surrounding neighbors in that busing partnership. We've certainly figured out, and the announcement today won't hurt us with WestJet for sure. We've experimented with stopping short on the airport with the national women's team, and now that WestJet's in, Hockey Canada is very excited about that opportunity as well. Partnerships as we go will be the uniqueness of how sport tourism continues to grow and its success as we move forward. In this event, thank you to our sponsors. Obviously, we can't do it without them. 30-plus sponsorships, over $130,000 of sponsorship money, and amazing partners there. Right back from 2010, we have some of the same partners, and the key to that is really growing into the values of the people and who they are and what they want to see returned. Volunteers was one of the key programs that Lindsay worked on. The heartbeat of your community is really around your volunteers, and this event had over 175 volunteers. Mr. Powell steered our committee, and again, Mr. Powell, all of those, we're going to get you to give the last word after a video. But that steering committee you've worked with since 2012, and every one of those volunteers have been a key critical link into our community. The volunteer platform with Hockey Canada is also a tool that can be used for other volunteer groups in our community, and we work with them as we host, we bring those learning trades out into the community as critical. Legacy is really what we believe is the key to any community stirring at the pot and making that community pride grow. DCBC did our STEAM analysis, that's our volleyball girls. All of our programs, we assist in putting some legacy money back in with them. The development side of 50-50, my brother, the brother of the mayor was in Victoria the other day and texted me, said we should have brought our volunteers out to Victoria. Their pot for 7,000 people is only $8,000, and I believe the final 50-50 was over $26,000. And all of that raised back through, goes back to the growth of the game and the opportunity for minor hockey to make it affordable for kids. So congratulations to Dawson Creek Minor Hockey. The ARC, we have got a great partnership with them. The Junior Canucks in both Fort St. John and our Junior Canucks were outstanding. We formed a partnership now that they want to be part of our program. They want to have their kids involved, and it certainly helps for sure. The Hospital Foundation came back through our partnership earlier in the year to assist us. Northern Lakes College we had Northern Lake College night. We had, I think there were 6 kids that had never seen a hockey game before. Our international students, it was quite exciting for them, and BC Hockey had some really cool stuff for them. Western Cree was in. Destination BC videos, we're going to talk a little bit about that at the end. The Hockey Canada videos, and then our BC school program. Those legacies, as we look, we figure, and since we started our program in 2010, we're close to $750,000 of value back into our communities, our partners, and those spin-off effects through the sport tourism model. A couple little photos of the branding of every minor hockey team actually had, the parents and children were all engaged in the 50-50. It's not hard for 150 NHL scouts to turn down Lindsay and I ask him for a 50-50 every day, but when a 6-year-old wearing his Tim Hortons hat says, "Would you like to buy a ticket, sir?" Seems to be a great influence. And this is Ma Baker's. They're very proud. They hosted the Russians for a pre-semi-final supper, and it had to be the best bacon pasta meal I'd ever seen. The Russians made it go away very quickly, and Ma Baker's, they said that was the carb that pushed them over into the final. So very, very exciting about that. So this leads to Mr. Powell. We talked about the Henderson family. There was a great article that was there. There was a great video in Chetwynd. But this one here, Mr. Powell was selected as the Ambassador of the Month for Hockey Canada, a true leader in our community, a true volunteer. I think they did great. You can see the whole family's involved. BC Hockey, Hockey Canada, the city was involved. Mr. Powell, we just wanted to bring you here today to thank you for that. We wanted to recognize, he says he's leaving us. I think him and Lindsay are starting their own company and branching out into Canada. But Mr. Powell, on behalf of our committee, we want to thank you. And we're really hoping we can show this quick video, and then we're going to wrap it up. What do you think, Sabrina? We have any magic back there?
Don't have the video? We don't have the video.
The video doesn't work?
We don't have it.
Okay, I thought it was embedded within the
Presentation?
There's a link.
Is it? Okay.
Let's see if Lynn's. Okay, if it, yeah. It doesn't work, I would ask that we, everybody, I'll send it up to council to go have a look at that.
Perfect.
Mr. Powell, last words as you depart from our.
I did say it was my last event to be involved in a whole bunch, but I understand that my son acquired the AAA girls volleyball playoffs, so I guess I'm not retiring yet. Certainly help him with that. But I think the experience is that, and just looking around the room and seeing how many other people are involved in it, and it does, we talk about team, it does take everyone to run these kind of events. And I happened to be in Langley for the other sport, and just wearing the jacket, people would say, "Oh, you're from Dawson Creek. Oh, you had the hockey up there." So that word does get out that we're of a community that does things. And when we talk about the volunteers, I always worry that sometimes we burn people out. And so you got to look at succession. Who's going to take somebody's place as they go? And we managed to start doing that at this last event. So I'm just interested in seeing how the other ones go. And I'm going to retire. And the other thing I learned, I do have a first name.
Yeah. What, Mr. Powell?
Yeah, I do have a first name. So thank you very much.
What is it, Dick?
Thank you, Dick.
All right.
Do you have any questions? Do you have any questions? Very sorry, you want to finish off?
Oh, and again to Mr. Powell, and recognize again the volunteers within our community is quite unique that you don't do anything at all in the community without people like you see today and that are out there promoting their programs, and Mr. Powell has been a great ambassador for us. The next announcement as we roll forward, there will be a formal announcement through Hockey Canada but we'll be hosting the Under-18 National Championships next fall, followed by the World Paris Sledge, so we're quite excited about both those events.
Good stuff.
All right.
So,
Cool. Thank you, Barry. Questions for council?
I just
Thank
always
you.
like to say great job. You guys do a great job, and you make it pretty easy for volunteers and groups to come forward and be a part of it, so let everybody know.
I think you touched to me on all three of them. It's the volunteers that we have. We have the sponsors that we've been able to build into these things, and then the venue of a world-class kind of facility gives us the ability to put these things together that's so unique. And but it takes folks that are willing to lead it, and we really appreciate the work that you guys, Barry and Dustin and Dick and Lindsay and the entire team have put into building this, because it has turned into a very successful model. And now he's one example, because I started to touch base with some of the business community in terms of talking to them about what did it mean for the week or 10 days. And one of the restaurants told me, he said our business was up 20% for the week of the hockey. And so that's a real indicator of that spins into your community. That's those guys now are they're waitresses, the servers, the people working, the chefs, everybody spins through there, and so it goes through your community. So I think there is a real opportunity there, and I want to express our appreciation to you guys. So thank you.
All right.
Our next item on the agenda is our new councillor business. Councillor Wilbur, Councillor Parslow.
The only thing I have is through you to staff, and I did mention that I was going to ask. I got quite a few phone calls. People were getting their letters in the mail regarding, I believe it's T5 forms for interest on their payments that are coming for their land tax. So I was just hoping staff could kind of just give us a little brief information on what that is, so people are aware, because for some it's new, and so they were quite concerned.
Through your worship, so mainly because we do pay interest over the prepayment property taxes, we are required to issue a T5 over the interest. So therefore we send a letter to all those that are current to have a prepayment property taxes, requesting the C number or the business number, and then by early March or end of February, we'll be sending official the T5. It is a requirement for anyone that has received interest to report the revenue up to $50. So we are formalizing this. And there is a second group also that we are sending the letter, that are those that had tax sales with us, and they bid, and they during the redemption period they got interest, and that's going to be a T5 for the last 10 years. That was a request from CRA, and we are required to do that.
Perfect. Thank you. Yes.
Anything further, Councillor Wilbur?
No, that was
Councillor Parslow.
Yeah, I under item 7.3, I will have a request I want to make, and my other matters will also be covered under 7.3, so I won't mention them.
Okay, thank you. Any other councillor business? Thank you. Minutes, so we have the minutes of our regular meeting of council for January 27th for adoption. Councillor Wilbur, second. Councillor Kemp. Any errors or omissions for anyone? All in favor? Opposed? Carried. Thank you. Any business arising out of those minutes? Councillor Lexman.
Your Worship, 9.4, just where we're working with Encana and the providers of the frac, where they're parking out there, have we had any engagement with them based on maybe upgrading it, graveling, responsible if it isn't, or if it's hammered out this summer? I think we talked about that. I was just curious.
So through your worship, right now our engagement with them has been over a licensed occupier, an agreement to use the space. That's in place. It does cover garbages, washrooms, cleanup at the end of the term. We haven't engaged as far as whether they'd be willing to invest some capital into that area in order to move it forward, I think is your question.
Yeah, I think it is important. I think they would be receptive if there's damage done to it, whether it's just, the weather lightens up and all of a sudden we got ruts through the whole area. Yeah. These are big trucks. I think we need to have the ability that they agree to walk in, clean it up, and put it back to the state it was.
And we have that, through your worship.
Okay.
It's within the agreement. They need to bring it back to the state in which they received it. So we're good in that sense. I will note that there are no trucks down there at this time, although there is a signed agreement, and I'm not sure if they're just monitoring the weather. I'm not clear on that.
So we had the regular courtesy matters community meeting on last Thursday, I think, and I asked Brian Levers about it because I noted the trucks weren't there, and And he said they also have a area out at the Farmington store that they're using, and so he thinks the trucks are primarily using there, and they haven't been using the yard, and it's kind of a down the chain too, because it's a company and the trucks are leased, so they're not using the yard right now, and he had no explanation as to why they weren't. So.
Okay.
Anything further on the business?
Just one other, under the minutes under Caribou Recovery, I just want to make sure it talks about when I explained my resignation. I'm supportive of the initiative of Caribou Recovery. We have not had a socioeconomic impact analysis completed in our region. So it says there, the impact on, and the socioeconomic impacts to the region, they're unknown yet. That's the whole reason I've got concerns with this issue. They're prepared to sign the partnership agreement without knowing the possible impacts, whether it be on backcountry usage, whether it be on lack of timber supply causing job losses in the forest industry. So if we could just correct that so that years from now when people are bedtime reading our minutes from this meeting, they'll understand that.
Thank you. Anything further? Thank you. Our next item, item 6, we have a letter from a gentleman regarding a West Junior A hockey franchise. We've had these, Duncan, can you give a little, we've had some expressions in the past on things like this?
Yeah, so through your worship, I would say within the last couple of years, we've had 2 that I can think of off the top of mind. They were actually Hockey Canada supported leagues. This league, my understanding, and of course we haven't done a lot of research on it, and until we know where council wants to go with something like this, we haven't done that. However, my understanding is this is kind of an outlaw or outside league that is trying to become established and not part of that Hockey Canada realm or BC hockey realm.
Councillor Election.
Are we I don't know if we need a motion to discuss. Anyway, I just, having dealt with these before as a city, I mean, I think we've got some incredible hockey teams in our community now. We've always worried about, you know, if we draw in somebody else, is it going to impact our seniors or our juniors or any others? You know, to be honest, I think if there is a wish to try and move to a Junior A, I think our Junior Canucks would lead that charge, to be honest. I think years ago we had a Tier 2 system under Junior A here. But I'm not supportive of looking or entertaining a new team coming in. So.
Receive for information. Councillor Earl, second. Councillor Kemp. All those in favor? Opposed? Carried. Thank you.
Well, thank you for the latitude.
Yeah. 7-1, we have a report from our financial services manager regarding our commercial property appraisal contract. Councillor Parzell.
I move the report number 20015 from the financial services manager, RFQ 2019-47, commercial property appraisal contract award be received. Further, that Suncorp Valuations be awarded the contract for commercial property appraisal services for the next 5-year term, beginning on March the 1st, 2020, in accordance with the terms and conditions as set out in the request for quote document.
Thank you. Second. Councillor Kemp, discussion. Duncan, Bobby, do we need anything?
So through your worship, we can just give a real basic. We are required to provide valuation for all of our facilities and all of our infrastructure, and Suncorp is hired to do that for us in order to ensure for the right value, I guess, for lack of a better word. So,
perfect. Thank you. Any further questions, comments, council? All in favor? Opposed? That's carried. 7-2, we have report number 20020 from the General Manager of Community Services regarding our fire and emergency services level of service policy amendment. Councillor Javekov.
I'll move that the report number 20-020 from the General Manager of Community Services, Fire and Emergency Services Level of Service Policy Amendment be received. Further, that the policy amendment be approved as presented within this report, pending the required 30-day review period.
Thank you. Second. Councillor Earl, discussion. Councillor Lexner.
Just a quick one on the 30-day review period. That's a public review period to look at our policies as we're amending it. Is that so? We'll take, if people come out raise issues, we'll then not reconsider, but consider those before finalizing this. Is that? just wanna make
So through your worship, and I'll lean on Cindy, but all policies have a 30-day review period. If we receive feedback opposed to the policy, then the policy will come back to council and a report accompanying that.
But if no response is received, then
it's
proceeds.
implemented.
Further comments? Questions? All in favor? Opposed? It's carried. Thank you. 7.3, we have report number 20021 from the Chief Financial Officer regarding the 2020 Financial Plan Draft 2 updated report. Now, Councillor Parslow, you had some, mentioned you had some input into this. Do we want to receive it for discussion?
I thought I would interject my questions.
Through the discussion?
That's okay.
Okay.
Motion to receive for discussion.
Okay. Councillor Earl, second. Councillor Wilbur. All in favor? Opposed? Carried. Duncan, go ahead.
Didn't want to vote, sorry. Through your
You can
worship.
vote if you want.
Yeah.
I'm not going to count it, so you can vote.
Through your worship, so as a result of our last budget meeting, and as a result of the decisions that were made at the last budget meeting, Flavia has updated some of the information, so council is aware of the decisions that were made and exactly what those numbers were. We, especially as we moved through some of the changes to the tax rates, we were, estimating and approximating some of those numbers, and we wanted to make sure you had those hard numbers in front of you before we go to the public budget consultation this evening. So what you see in front of you is what will be included in the presentation and in the pamphlet this evening.
Thank you. Councillor Parslow.
So one question here, in the report, changes in the operating revenue and expenditures. Item C, reduction of the flood mitigation grant, partially used in 2019 and carried forward for 2020, affecting both revenue and expenses. Is this an external grant that we have been getting?
Yes. So that was related to the flood mitigation mapping consulting project that we started in 2019, but we haven't completed yet. So it's in progress. So it's just the carry forward portion that we recognize both the revenue and the expenses for what we are carrying over. So there is no direct effect on that reserve we have for flooding mitigation as a grant.
In reading this morning, I suddenly realized that my thinking of yesterday was incorrect. My thinking of yesterday was that council had cut the flood mitigation funding and they
We were going to, but we were waiting for it.
I was
What
working
happened?
hard
We
to
all
delay.
said
No, no, Charlie.
That was a test for you, Mr.
So
Parslow.
thank you. It was a test. Thank you. That I was reading the. So thank you.
Don't make me do your
I'm
stuff
at ease, but I began to get easy as I was reading it from this morning's light. Thank you.
That was it.
Coffee
We were
helps
gonna give the budget 4 readings while you were gone. Further discussion? Further comments? So we need a motion to proceed. Or do you want it, we've got it for information, we've received it for discussion, we don't need to do anything further than that at this point, it's going forward as is?
You don't need to. It's helpful, so we understand that, if you want to receive it for information, that's great, and it closes it off, if that's okay.
Okay.
Councillor
I'll
Wilbur,
make the motion we
Councillor
receive for information.
Earl, move, second. All in favor? Opposed? Carried. Thank you. Bylaws, 8.1, we have fees and charges amendment bylaw 44233 for consideration of adoption. Do you want to?
No, I was
You have
just,
some questions?
the previous one, Your Worship, as we go through our presentation this evening, there's a couple things in there. I mean, we can handle those off. I think it's going to be important we explain a couple of key issues. I mean, many times people will look at the overall taxes we collect when in fact 9.1 million is collected for others. Non-market versus market changes in assessment. I've just got some highlights that we can go over maybe before tonight's meeting.
We absolutely got a presentation of that information
Yeah.
already, and we'll get that information to council for...
It's attached.
It's attached
Yeah,
for
it
tonight,
is.
so...
All right.
So, Mayor, sorry,
Yeah.
I'm a little slow to this, on these things this morning, but so fine, with the attachments are all part of the... So tonight, I have a request as it relates to budget, and I'd like to, if I may, ask it now.
Sure.
Whilst I I'm fairly comfortable with things at this time, but I would like to have a better understanding. And it just relates to the operating part of the budget, not the capital part. I'd like to have a better understanding of what we are resourcing in our operating budget. So in other words, I'd like to have a sort of a line-by-line review of what does this money provide, what are we doing, what is the service level, just so I'm really feeling comfortable, I know what's contained in this book. I feel comfortable as it relates to the capital, but not the operating. So I'm requesting that we have a time where we can have a narrative explanation, no reports, nothing, just go through it with us, so at least I feel comfortable. Other council members feel that they know exactly what's in there, but I don't. But I sense that I'm comfortable with it, but I just like to have a refresher. So I'm requesting the half day or day, set aside a day, but it may only take a morning, just so that staff can lead us through in a narrative sense what's on this page, etc., etc. So that's just what I'm requesting.
Okay, well, we'll have some discussion with administration and then bring that back as a timeline in terms of how we can fit that in.
Yes, and through your worship, if it is a special budget meeting, which it sounds like is being requested, we should select that date prior to March 9th, where we bring forward that 5-year financial plan with enough leeway that if council is intending to make some changes, they could be included. But typically, by the time we go out to the public this evening, we're fairly set in on that budget and what that looks like. And if we were going to make substantial changes, you may want to consider going back out.
I didn't hear Councillor Parslow saying changes, just an explanation on the operating as it relates to some of the specifics. So, yeah.
Okay.
So we'll have a look at the calendar over the next 2-3 weeks and see if we can find a date that works to get that in. Thank you. Sorry, does that close all that off for council? So bylaws 8.1, fees and charges amendment bylaw 4433-2020 for consideration of adoption. Councillor Lexstrom?
I would so move.
Thank you. Second? Councillor Wilbur? Discussion? All in favor? Opposed? Carried. Thank you. Report number 20017 from the Deputy Corporate Officer regarding our utility bill payment implementation. Councillor Parslow.
Move that report 20017 from the Deputy Corporate Officer utility bill penalty implementation be received. Further, that the following bylaws be given first 3 readings. Water Rates and Regulations Amendment Bylaw Number 4434-2020, Sewer Rates and Regulations Amendment Bylaw Number 4435-2020, and Solid Waste and Recyclable Material Regulation Amendment Bylaw Number 4436-2020.
Thank you. Second? Councillor Kemp, discussion? Councillor Lexter?
A quick question through to administration. So the 10% penalty, and I'm fully supportive, I mean, I think we're the only utility possibly on the planet that didn't charge a late penalty charge. Is 10% the standard? Is that something that's PNG use or the other utilities? That's how we come with that number?
Yeah, it's pretty common also with other municipalities regarding to utilities charge.
Okay.
So 10% is a pretty common percentage applied.
All right.
Around here.
And the reason this came about, I think, is fair so the public, you could not pay your utility bill for the entire year, walk in at the end of the year, pay it once with no penalty at all. There's just, I mean, when a bill comes, usually you have X days to make that payment, or there will be a penalty clause, and that's what this now enshrines in our payment structure.
Good. Councillor Earl?
Yeah, thank you, Worship. Just to add to Councillor Lexstrom's point, there is a cost to outstanding overdue bills with respect to driving up the cost of admin. People have to spend time trying to collect on that, tracking that. running reports on that. So the penalty, as well as being an incentive for people to pay it on time, also helps us recoup some of the costs of delinquent bills, which are otherwise offloaded onto every other ratepayer.
Good. And it was a great catch. I think that's really prudent of us to exactly that, have a penalty attached to these this utility. Further discussion? Ready for the question? All in favor? Opposed? It's carried. Thank you. 8.3, we have report number 20019 from the Deputy Corporate Officer regarding our Fire Protection Amendment Bylaw number 4427 for consideration of first three readings. Councillor Wilbur?
I will move that report number 20-019 from the Deputy Corporate Officer regarding the Fire Protection Amendment Bylaw number 4457-2020 be received. Further, that the Fire Protection Amendment Bylaw number 4457-2020 be given first three readings.
Thank you. Second? Councillor Kemp. Discussion? Councillor Parslow?
Yes, well, I'm glad we're going to do this, but I have a question. Let me see. It's under the table. It's the second paragraph under the table of fees, Cindy, starting during the bylaw review. Staff discovered that most municipalities utilize a calendar year for the tracking of occurrences, while others utilize a 12-month tracking system, and the number of occurrences and fees are reset annually. The current bylaw does not address any tracking of occurrences, nor allow for the number of offences to reset. Staff recommends implementing a calendar year tracking system and has added this to the bylaw presented. So I'm a little confused about this. So you're recommending that we have a year-to-year tracking system. So let's say January the 1st, 2020 to December the 31st. So if a person's had two occurrences in 2020, they're set back to zero for 21.
Through your worship, that's correct.
That's correct. I don't know, why would we reset? I'm wondering about that. I mean, this is, we looked at that, recently we looked at some information about all these false fire alarm calls, and so I'm just wondering how the rest of council feel about the resetting. Why shouldn't it be cumulative?
Yeah. Duncan?
So through your worship, as council may have noticed through the report, in this instance, these charges are actually permitted to be applied to property taxes. And security charges and fire alarm charges through the charter are allowed to be placed on property taxes. And so that reset 12-month date is to ensure that maybe a new property owner or somebody who takes over a property doesn't inherit maybe a couple of security calls or et cetera from previous owners. So like to have that reset, give people that opportunity to correct that behavior.
Councillor Javekwa?
So this penalty for false alarms just applies to fire alarms and not to intrusion alarms?
Duncan?
So through your worship, at this time, we are dealing with fire false alarms. As we researched and moved our way through this this bylaw, it came to light that security alarms are also permitted. We would have to work with the RCMP obviously on that, as we don't receive those calls directly here, but I feel like that's something we can look at as we move forward.
Councillor Javekwa?
So if there's a false alarm that is from the rural area, does this apply to that as well?
Duncan?
So through your worship, that's something we, right now, and I'll ask Cindy on this one, I believe this only applies within our boundaries because we don't have that ability to charge that fee to the rural area until it's implemented through a fees and charges bylaw. I would ask Cindy that.
That would be something I would have to look into. I believe we could still, because we do the municipal area, the boundary, I would believe we could still charge them, but we would not be able to collect on the taxes at that point. But that's something I could get clarification.
Good. Councillor Parslow?
So, in reference to the answer we received from our esteemed Chief Administrative Officer, which I understand and is a very reasonable consideration, but why couldn't that be a lien on the property if it changed ownership? If there was an outstanding, if there was a matter that somebody owed, let's say there's a $200 application on top of the property tax, why couldn't that be shown as a lien?
Duncan?
So through your worship, my understanding, and again, we're in some new ground here where, you know, we have had fees placed on property taxes. First time we've really moved forward with the false alarm fees. It could remain with the property, is my understanding, and as long as they pay their property taxes, it would not, but it could remain for 3 years if somebody didn't pay their property taxes up to delinquency.
Councillor Wilbur?
If I recall too, part of the discussion at the beginning when we were looking at this was where alarm companies were putting the smoke detectors that were setting off the false alarms. For example, right outside the bathroom door, so the steam set it off, or right close to the stove, so they open the oven set it off. So part of it is a learning tool to the homeowner too, and they can recoup it back from their alarm companies if a false alarm was set because of where it was installed. So it's also partly, I think, a learning technique that if you get a false alarm call out, you need to then have the fire department or someone check where that equipment is installed. Because I think a lot of it is coming from, if I remember correctly, from dispatching from alarm companies, not just necessarily someone phoning, looks like the neighbor's house is on fire, it's false alarm. It's actually coming from dispatch of alarm companies who've installed the equipment, and because of where it was installed, the fire department keeps getting called out. And so I think, if I recall correctly, that was the original conversation, because I'm the one that brought it up.
Councillor Lexstrom, Councillor Javeco.
Just a quick question. The 12 months that we're talking about, the calendar year, so if, and I'll give you an example, if, for example, an alarm comes in, a false alarm, January of this year, that's one. There's no charge, first one. We then have another one in February, okay, then there's a charge. There is no more for the remainder of the calendar year. Do they have to, is it just a reset, or is it a reset from the February incident? Like, do they have to have 12 clear months of no offenses?
I'm actually recommending a calendar year.
A calendar year versus the 12 free months
yes.
of, okay. Because you could do, yeah, I'm leaning towards the other, actually, just for the simple fact the reset should be 12 clear months. It would be my preference, but is there, and I would look to administration because you guys have done the work on this, is there benefit either way? I know you've the calendar year would be a much easier track based on the taxation, I think, as well, but if they don't pay and there's a and we do reset, say, on a 12 consecutive months, we can still apply it to the taxes, and then during tax sale, if that property is redeemed or not redeemed, we could recover it that way, could we not?
So through your worship, the calendar year was, I checked with bylaw staff and also researched, and most places do a calendar year. I think the tracking of the 12 months might be difficult and more administrative cost.
More cost.
That way it ties in with the tax sale, the tax date of December 31st, everything would roll. Council has the alternative to take out the reset altogether, and I can amend the bylaw accordingly.
Councillor Javeco and Councillor Parvo.
Just a significant change. Looking at the penalties, and I don't have a fire alarm in my house, but if I got a bill for $100 for a false alarm, I would be concerned. So I'm just wondering if there's a process to contact people. There must be a list of people that have false alarms, just to let them know that this is there, because you know, some of these people may want to take their alarm system right out. you know, the price goes first offense is free, second is $100, third is $200, fourth is $300, and every false alarm after that is $300. Well, if you've got a situation where you've got a few, you know, triggers, can add up pretty quickly. So I guess my point is that if we could contact people that are experiencing false alarms and let them know what the penalties are.
So,
I'll grab it.
Duncan?
Yeah, so through your worship, there is a communication planning included in the report. And from the original motion directing staff to implement and create this bylaw, that's been council's intent all along, is really to change the behavior. It's not really about the fine, right?
Councillor Parslow?
Yeah, no, I appreciate the fact there's a communication plan, and as much of this I personally really think it's necessary, and I think it's right. So just help me again understand a question that Councillor Letstrom put forward as treated this. So a person incurs a false fire alarm fine of, let's say, $100. They've in February of 2020, that will appear on their 2021 tax, or would it be their 2020 tax? Or when do you set the fee? Is it at the end of the calendar year, and then you apply it to the subsequent tax year? I don't know.
Sure.
Yeah.
So, through your worship, the intent is they will pay that fee immediately. However, the property taxes is the opportunity instead of taking them to small claims court. So they will be they will be charged immediately after, within 30 days, however long it takes to process. Really, the property tax pieces are
Final.
Plan B
Yeah.
opportunity to recoup that.
Thank you, I didn't understand. Thank you.
Councillor Lexter?
One final comment. It should be noted, the occurrence, the first one is no charge to give that ability to say, hey, look, get things in, get your house in order here. The other ones, 100, 200, and 300 occurrence, still doesn't recover near the cost that it costs to roll the fire department out to a false alarm. So this is not something the city will make money on.
No.
By any stretch, and what we're trying to do is rein in some costs so that the general taxpayer doesn't have to continue picking up these costs. So.
The comment to me, and as Councillor Parslow has raised it, is this reset. And to me, if somebody just automatically gets a clean reset every year, the penalty is, as Councillor Lexstrom's indicated, is we're trying to change behaviors of folks who are costing some dough here for us in these false alarm callouts. And so you put the penalty in place to try to change that behavior, but to me, I would think we would have you go a year in order to reset the clock before you just automatically every year everybody just gets a clean slate to start all over again. You have 1, 2, or 3 offenses in 1 year and cost us a ton of call out time, and next year you start free again, right? I'm not sure that that's, you want to change behavior. Councillor Javetkov?
You know, I think it's fairly well thought out. I think we should approve it, and I mean, there's always a chance to change it, you know. I can see where connecting it with the calendar year for tax reasons, you know, it makes sense. If it's not working, I think it's going to work. You know, you get a couple of penalty charges, I think it's going to work. I don't think we need to, you know, escalate it to a $300 touch for every occurrence.
Thank you for your soft-hearted approach. Do we have a motion?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Good.
The recommendation.
You ready for the question? All those in favor? Opposed? It's carried. Thank you. Great job to administration. Cindy, you guys. Mayor's business, I'll get through very quickly. We attended the BC Natural Resource Forum in Prince George. 1,150 delegates. I think this has turned into, to me, a really, really strong opportunity at a conference where it's close by. Prince George, that Civic Center, is a real tight, small venue where everybody's there. Like I say, 1,150 delegates this year was very, very well attended. The provincial government, municipal government, First Nations, industry, mining, forestry, the energy sector, and all of the various organizations that are interested in northern British Columbia and British Columbia were there. And very, very well attended and really well done. Tuesday night was the banquet, and Tracy Robinson, the VP of TC Energy, did a presentation on coastal, and she was the keynote speaker that night. She did a great job, I thought, and really covered off the work that TC Energy are doing. And so through the day on Wednesday was lots of different interactions and really, really well done. I attended while I was down there, I'm on an advisory committee for Northern Health on Northern Health Connections, and so I took the opportunity while I was there. They booked the meetings with the Mayor of Vanderhoof, Jerry Thiessen, and myself sit on an advisory committee for Northern Health on their connection service, and we just give them input into that service Northern Health are providing. They're really working right now hard with interior health. Big demand for service for cardiology services in Kelowna, because they're moving that cardiology, the cardiologists are in Kelowna, and a lot of folks from the interior are moving in there, so they're moving that connection service into Kelowna and giving people from the north the opportunity now to have another link in there for that service, which was really good. We're talking about this, they're looking at a circle route in northern BC, northeast BC, trying to maximize the services that are here right now. The bus leaves here in the morning, goes up to Fort St. John for dialysis and different services there, and then comes back in the afternoon, and so they're looking at maximizing kind of the services and other opportunities there. We've talked to the college about potentially using it for some services for students as well. Anyway, it's a really good opportunity to me to be involved in getting some inside information into some of that connection service and bring it back to the region. And the other key for me on the Natural Resource Forum was Chief Councillor Smith, who gave a keynote at lunchtime on Thursday, and she did a great job and an amazing presentation on the work that the Heisla have done in that building community and managing now opportunities of the economy rather than managing poverty for her community, and talked about all of the benefits. It's now online, and it was really a powerful kind of presentation. I talked a bit ago about the work that I've been doing with Richard Dunn and Steve Carr, who are helping Energy Saguenay. GNL is a LNG facility in Saguenay, Quebec, and asked us if we would help them kind of get some grassroots support for community support to help push that project across the line a little bit. And so I reached out to Bill Gibbons because he's got all of those contacts for Western Alberta, and we got a letter put together, and I've given a copy of it to council that was penned, and it was supported by probably 25 or 30 communities on the back of the letter. And I did an interview in CBC Quebec on this stuff, and now they're going to use this letter as part of their filing for the regulatory process, and they're really happy with the support they're getting from us in Western Canada, Northeast BC, and Northwest Alberta for that project. And I received a letter from the president of Saguenay that I thought would share with council in terms of their sourcing their gas out of Western Canada. The plan as part of this project is 1.5 to 2 billion cubic feet. It's comparable to what LNG Canada are building, and their plan is to build a pipeline across northern Ontario to service and connect the gas to and for them. And so to me, anything that we can do to help promote the economy of the natural gas sector helps us in our community, our region, our province, the country, and it's getting really strong support. They're talking about the mayor of Saguenay perhaps doing a visit to Western Northeast BC, Northwest Alberta, to have a look at the upstream development and build that partnership with them and how we can help hopefully move this project ahead. And so it was good. And the last piece I want to talk about while I was in Prince George as well, I met with Northern Health, and I met with a number of their senior team in regards to seniors housing. And so I think we've all had the demand and discussion from folks about how important seniors housing is for community in the region, and Northern Health are very, very keen on, they've got all the data, they've got the work in terms of understanding what's needed. I kind of got it in my head after that meeting, there's two streams. There's the best day is seniors at home, and the longer they can stay at home and live at home is their best day. So they need that support through those various segments of care as they transition into assisted living. You need home support, you need sometimes medical support, you need domestic support, you need social support, you need that stimulation of day to day when you're living at home to be able to have that social interaction. And then we need assisted living, we need more accommodation, we need more roofs and doors for people to be able to move and live. And our last council, and I don't know if we brought it back, and I think we're going to get it back in front of council, is the old Granby School property, the old Calvin Kirk Performing Arts Center, that we had directed that to be utilized for some social housing of some sort. And so anyway, Northern Health are very keen about moving this forward, and we'll engage with the locals to bring that back in and start, see if we can get this moving forward. We've got the data analysis work being done right now in partnership with the Peace River Regional District, and once we have that, we can marry that up with the stuff Northern Health has and hopefully start to move forward with a strategy on seniors housing, seniors accommodation, affordable housing, and transitional housing. So it was very good. I was had 4 or 5 the senior executive team that Kathy Ulrich lined me up with, and we spent about 2 hours, and it was very worthwhile. Councillor Parcel?
May I just, yeah, thank you, as always, for giving us updates of your meetings with people. Councillor Leckstrom and I had an informal chat and about seniors housing, and I was in Grand Prairie at Subaru dealership, which is right opposite a large seniors complex, and I thought, based upon just our chat, I'm going to go in there and ask some questions. And I think I was under a false impression, and I think I had conveyed some misinformation to you a year or two ago about the provision in Grand Prairie, and I think it's the community called Clare's Home, just north of
Claremont.
Claremont, yeah. That there was this private senior care option that was present in Grand Prairie and the Claremont and Peace River. And so I went in there and found that it's quite different than what I expected. So I have some brochures there, but essentially is a private, I'm giving my interpretation, it's a private-public partnerships. The buildings have been put up by a private interest. The staffing and operation is a private interest. But it's all through a grant from Alberta Health. Mm-hmm. So the application goes through Alberta Health, and if it's accepted, the funding to the private. But so I just want to raise the notion that maybe there's a private partnership we could have like that. The organization that originally owned it was Points West, and I think they still operate the one perhaps in Clare's Home and in Peace River. But now the one in Grand Prairie is owned by a company out of Vancouver called Park Place Seniors Living. And I just thought if there's any permutation or scheme of inviting them to see if there's an interest here.
Yeah, I think the key to me, then it's always been amazing to me that there is no private facilities, privately run or owned facilities in northern British Columbia for seniors care or assisted living. There's private in the Okanagan, there's private on the island, there's private in the Lower Mainland, but there is nothing north of probably, I don't even know if Kamloops is probably the furthest north. So anyway, I think the issue is we got to do the data analysis to engage the province, to engage Northern Health, to say, okay, there's 2 streams here of stuff we need to do, but we need to get that data done first before we can start to engage. And then it's access to capital, to get somebody to build it, and then it's access to who's going to operate it, who's funding the operations of it, and then what is it you're trying to deliver, and that's what I think we need to get that data to understand what it is you want to do first. But I'm really encouraged by the data and the information Northern Health have as it relates to it, and we need to have, Dawson Creek and the region needs to have seniors care, seniors housing, and certainly our hospital is evident of that when you see the number of people that are in there right now as inpatient patients that clearly don't need to be, they just don't have any other option. So we're going to work on it, and we'll get it going. Councillor Alex?
Just a quick follow-up, Your Worship, and you've touched on it. The study, and I believe it's through the RD that's being done, is hugely important for us to have that in our hand. I know that you've asked Councillor Kemp and myself to look at that property and see. I think there's a huge opportunity per the discussion that we had, Charlie, as a mixed use. I mean, from seniors to affordable housing. I think we have an amazing piece of property up there that we can certainly look to partner on. We're fortunate in our community that land availability is our contribution versus many in the other areas that just don't have that. So as we get this study in our hands, I think we want to move quickly, because more and more so, I think we're seeing a great need. You touched on just a quick one when you met with Northern Health. If I could raise something, and maybe you have the answer, maybe not. I read with interest that Northern Health, I believe it is now funding housing in Fort St. John and Prince George.
BC
is it BC?
Sorry to interject, it's not Northern Housing.
It's a province.
It's
BC Housing?
BC Housing.
BC Housing. And I'm just curious, I know that the work that has been put in tirelessly for Boltre's house, do we receive any funding? And if not, how would they have handpicked two organizations outside of ours?
Yeah.
Shaylee?
So on that, all of any money or funding that we've applied for, we've been denied on the grounds that we do not fall under housing or social responsibility. So every grant application, every funding source that we have been privy to or applied to, that has been the comment that's come back from the different bodies of provincial government. Our Constitution very clearly says in its first line that we're providing affordable housing and removing social barriers that are financially related. So that's a battle that we're battling, and we're asking questions. So unfortunately, some of those communities as well have been watching our project, have all of our information's public, and looking at our plans and what we've put forward, and are basing some of theirs on that. So we're unique. And it's hurt us because we've come to a halt where we have to do some major fundraising because we've been denied those applications. But it is very clearly, and I quote, "You do not qualify under housing or social responsibility."
We should follow up with BC Housing in terms of that. If they are moving forward with a model that they're providing patient accommodation in other communities, and we're funding it through the municipal. A big chunk of it has come from the municipal through the PRRD.
Absolutely.
Then we need to follow that up with them.
So, and I guess I'll just add to that, the difference is, and we just did an interview with Peace FM and the local TV station, was the clarification that the city didn't buy it. So we're an anomaly that, yes, we were originally all appointed, now we're elected volunteers to a board, and it's a 12 volunteers with a partnership through Lakeford Credit Union that bought the property and is moving this project forward. So PRRD is funding it, and Canada just can't give us some funding. Well, it's not in Canada anymore, formerly in Canada, just gave us some funding. So locally, local businesses, local people are investing from Tumbler Ridge, Chatwin, Soto, Doig River, Fort Nelson. We're seeing, so as Northeast BC, we're building this project. So it is really disheartening for board of directors of 12 people to have the government tell them they don't qualify for funding and then watch them provide it to other communities.
Okay. So do we need a motion to follow through on that? It just seems unheard of to me that the work that people have put into this to be overlooked.
We'll phone the minister. I'll phone the minister's office and we'll follow it up. Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah. Cool. Councillor Parsons?
Well, the points you made, I just want to emphasize. We had a little chat about this, didn't we, last week? I heard it actually on CBC.
So did I.
Okay, I haven't read anything, but and the immediate reaction was that, wow, this is really going to negatively impact what's South Peace Health Society has been working at, right?
Northern Health are indicating that we are the model of what they're so pleased with the work that's been done in the region to develop this patient accommodation for their patients. So, and it was clear they were not involved in any other stuff outside of this one in terms of the support, but they want to be working with us. But we will follow it up. We'll phone the minister's office and follow up.
Well, because to that, because that's very frustrating for me. Mayor Bumstead has done a lot of work, and the mayors of the South Peace and the directors of the South Peace to get this all going and get it started. And so all of those different levels of ministry have had the package, have had the information right from the time the seed was planted. So to be honest, and I'm glad that the mayor will look after it, because to me, I feel 12 people got kicked in the face when that announcement was made on CBC.
Okay.
And I'll just leave it at that.
We'll follow it up. Anything further under mayor's business? Anybody have any other questions? Diary?
Nothing to update, your worship.
Consent calendar, a couple of items to, any comments, questions for anybody? Motion to approve consent. Councillor Kemp, second. Councillor Earl, all in favor? Opposed, carried. Strategic priorities?
Nothing to update, your
We're
worship.
still fuming over the last issue, Your Worship.
Media question? Rob, anything?
Maybe what Charlotte was just talking about, but otherwise no.
Okay, thank you. So a motion to recess to close. Councillor Kemp, Councillor Lexstrom, all in favor? Opposed, carried. So we'll take 6 minutes, 7 minutes, and